I'm Andy with Competitive Cyclist, and these are Shimano's amazing Dura-Ace tubular and Clincher road wheels. My first experience with Shimano wheels was actually the pilot for our video review program, and that pilot, like so many TV pilots that you never see, was so horrible that it also never saw the light of day. I managed to provide some good content and info about the wheels. They were the first generation of the Scandium Road tubeless wheels, but we were so green that the overall vibe of the video was just, well, bad. My first wheel set, the Shimano tubeless version, I fell in love with them. I mean, I fell in love with them. I dug them so much that I actually enthusiastically pinned the text for them along with the Hutchinson Road tubeless tires that you can read on our website right now. But like all bike geeks, once the novelty of the wheels wore off, I started shopping around for another wheel set. Well, let me tell you, when I got back on board these carbon 50s, I realized that selling those wheels was a huge mistake. The main reason I regret selling them is that Shimano, in my opinion, makes some of the best all-around wheels on the planet. And when you dig into the technology behind them, I think you'll agree. First, let's start with their principle of weight. Shimano wheels may be slightly heavier than the competition, but what most folks don't realize is that Shimano strategically places the bulk of the weight of their wheels in the center of the wheel. That's the main reason they use Scandium in the rims of the 7850 tubeless wheel set. As a result, Shimano wheels in general feel as light and lively as wheels that are sometimes up to 100 to 200 grams lighter. By keeping the weight centered, they make it easier to get the wheels up to speed and hold it there. And because there's less rotational weight, even the 1500 gram 50 millimeter tubulars feel punchy and quick when attacking on a steep climb. Okay, so they ride light, as I like to say. But what about stiffness? Well, I'm glad I asked that question. The lateral stiffness of these wheels is anchored at the hub, which is a near mirror image of the technology Shimano invented with their revolutionary external bottom bracket cups. Shimano has pushed the bearings as far outboard as possible on the axle in order to create a wider platform or juncture for the spokes to stand on. Think about it this way. If you're standing upright with your heels together and someone pushes you, you're going to fall, right? Well, standing with your feet a little wider than, say, shoulder width apart, and it takes a lot of shoving to tip you over. So when you create a similar interface with the wheel, the result is a dramatic increase in stiffness and power transfer when compared to wheels with narrower junctures between the spokes, the hub, and the bearings. And then Shimano goes one step further with the spokes. They actually combed the earth for the highest tensile strength steel they could find, and they found it in Sweden, of all places. Yeah, Sweden. I don't get it either, but the steel they found allows them to pull the spokes to much higher tension levels than a traditional spoke. I've heard rumors that it's 2 to 3 times higher without causing any undue stress on the spoke, on the hub, or on the rim. They're also ion plated, double butted and bladed to ensure they slip effortlessly through the wind and resist the negative effects of corrosive road grime and moisture for years to come. Shimano's wheels have 16 spokes front and 20 rear, but when you stomp on them, you'd swear they had the power transfer of 36 straight 14 gauge spokes in each wheel. You also get beefier axles to add to the stiffness story, but even though Shimano's gone to the ends of the earth to make these wheels laterally strong, the ride quality isn't compromised in the least. All of these wheels feel like a traditional wheel set should feel. They spin up fast and absorb a great deal of vibration and bumps from chip and seal and sometimes even worse roads. And of course, Shimano still firmly believes in the angular contact, also known as cup and cone, bearing system. I'm a believer too. I've yet to climb on board a smoother rolling wheel set. Lastly, let's talk about the rims. The Scandium Clincher rims have smooth, even braking surfaces and a beautiful black anodized finish, anodized of course because paint is heavier, and the new trademark red spoke nipples. If you look closely at the hook, that's what grabs the bead of your tire, you can see that it's actually rectangular and not round. Why? Simple. The road tubeless tire has a rectangular Kevlar bead that is wrapped in butyl rubber. That's the type of rubber commonly used in inner tubes. When you air up the tire, the bead locks into the channel and the rubber coating creates an airtight seal. Now, when you look closely at the carbon rims, it's hard to keep your jaw from dropping. That is, if you've looked at everyone else's carbon rims. Shimano's are absolutely perfect. They're sublime. I mean, there's not a single imperfection anywhere. The scrim on the braking surface is in a perfectly laid diamond pattern, and the carbon between the inside of the rim and that braking surface has beautiful striations in one of the most flawless carbon layups I've seen on either a set of wheels or even a frame. If you have ever wondered what perfection in carbon fiber layup looks like, this is it. Kudos to the mad scientists in the Dura-Ace lab in Osaka. And further kudos are deserved for the new carbon laminate wheel. By essentially shaving down the aluminum rim and bonding a good amount of carbon fiber to that surface, they've reduced the weight by over 100 grams while keeping all the same amazing technology in place. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of these wheels, every size, every shape. I spent the better part of a year beating the life out of a set of 7801 Scandium wheels, and they never even got close to a truing stand. No matter what situation I found myself in, they excelled, be it a 90-minute climb or an all-out sprint and a crit. The wheels just did what I needed them to do. They were simultaneously light, stiff, responsive, and compliant on every ride. My experience with the carbon tubies has been equally pleasant and equally surprising. I typically prefer something like this, a more traditional wheel depth for all-around performance. But these, because they share the center of the weight philosophy, are exceptional wheels for nearly any condition. At 50 millimeters deep, they're obviously super fast in the flats. And when I was really stomping on the pedals, they're more responsive than a shallow wheel because obviously the deeper rim is far stiffer than the shallow rim. They also go uphill like my Cerium SLs. They're light, lively, stiff, and responsive. As I mentioned at the outset, Shimano wheels are perhaps the most underrated wheels in all of cycling. Granted, they're not terribly sexy, and Shimano could really stand to pump up their wheel ad campaigns, or I don't know, maybe not. If you take a close look at the last 2 or 3 years of the Tour, the Vuelta, and the Giro, along with a handful of spring classics, you'll probably see more stages and more races won on Shimano wheels than basically any other wheel. There's a reason the pros all ride them, and after spending some time on them, I get it. They're just great wheels. Thanks for tuning in, and if you have any questions about Shimano wheels or any other Shimano component for that matter, you're more than welcome to give me a call or shoot me an email at andy@competitivecyclist.com.